You have multi-factor authentication enforced across your organization. Conditional access policies are in place. Your users are trained not to click suspicious links. So you're secure, right? Not exactly. A new class of attack is bypassing all of these controls, and it's called session hijacking. Attackers aren't stealing passwords anymore. They're stealing the one thing that proves you've already authenticated, your session token. Once they have it, they can walk right into your Microsoft 365 environment, read your CEO's email, reset passwords, and plant backdoors, all without ever triggering a single MFA prompt. In this video, we'll break down what session hijacking is, walk through a real-world attack scenario, examine what Entra ID can and cannot do to stop it, and finally, look at how dedicated identity threat detection and response solutions provide the detection and remediation capabilities you actually need. Let's dive in. What is session hijacking? When you log into a website or a cloud application, the system issues a unique identifier called a session token. This token is typically stored in a browser cookie and tells the application, this user has already authenticated, so keep them logged in. Without session tokens, you have to re-enter your password every time you clicked a link. Session hijacking is exactly what it sounds like. An attacker steals this token and uses it to impersonate you, inheriting your device trust, your MFA state, and all your conditional access privileges. There are several ways attackers steal session tokens. Man-in-the-middle attacks, using tools like Evilginx to position themselves between you and the legitimate login page, capturing tokens in real time. Cross-site scripting, injecting malicious scripts into websites that extract cookies from your browser. Malware/infostealers, malicious software that extracts session cookies directly from your browser's storage. Session sniffing, intercepting unencrypted network traffic on public Wi-Fi to capture session IDs. But the most dangerous method today is adversary-in-the-middle phishing, and that's where our real-world scenario begins. Real-world scenario: the Evilginx attack. Let me walk you through a real attack that security researchers have observed in the wild, targeting organizations just like yours. The attacker starts by setting up Evilginx, an open-source adversary-in-the-middle framework that acts as a reverse proxy. They register a domain that looks almost identical to your company's legitimate SSO portal, maybe Microsoft Online, auth.com, instead of the real one. They install a valid TLS certificate, so the browser's padlock icon appears completely legitimate. Then they send a targeted phishing email. It looks like it's from IT support, asking the user to re-authenticate due to a security update. The victim clicks the link. The phishing page looks identical to the real Microsoft login screen. Same layout, same scripts, same branding. The user enters their username and password and then completes their MFA, whether it's a push notification, a TOTP code, or even a hardware key. Here's where it gets scary. Evilginx forwards all traffic to the real Microsoft login server in real time. The user successfully authenticates. Everything looks normal. But in the background, Evilginx silently captures the session token before it reaches the user's browser. The attacker now has a valid, authenticated session token. They can import that token into their own browser and immediately gain access to the victim's entire Microsoft 365 environment: email, Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive. They can read confidential messages, reset passwords on linked applications, register their own MFA methods for persistence, and even deploy backdoors. And here's the most dangerous part. Microsoft Entra ID logs this as a completely successful login. From the identity provider's perspective, everything is legitimate. The token is valid, the user authenticated properly, and there's no indication that anything is wrong. This isn't theoretical. In 2025, security researchers identified campaigns where Evilginx was actively used to mimic legitimate corporate SSO sites and steal tokens for email and collaboration platforms. Threat actors have also been observed using this technique against educational institutions since April 2025. Microsoft Entra ID's role as prevention tools. Now, Microsoft Entra ID does include some important prevention capabilities that you should absolutely enable. Let's look at what's available. Token protection. This is a conditional access session control that cryptographically binds tokens to specific trusted devices. When a device is registered with Microsoft Entra, a primary refresh token is issued and bound to that device. Even if an attacker steals the token, they cannot replay it from a different machine because the cryptographic binding would fail. Token protection can be enforced on Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, and Teams resources, though it does have specific requirements around supported devices and applications. Continuous access evaluation. This allows Microsoft Entra applications to subscribe to critical events such as a user account being deleted, a password being changed, or elevated user risk being detected. Applications can then reject unexpired tokens based on these signals, forcing re-authentication when needed. Device hardening. Microsoft recommends enrolling devices with Intune and deploying Microsoft Defender for Endpoint to protect against malware-based token exfiltration, including real-time protection, behavior monitoring, and network protection to block connections to malicious sites. These are all valuable prevention measures. But here's the problem. They are proactive controls. They assume you can stop the attack before it happens. Once a token is stolen from a compliant device, once an attacker is already inside an active session, these prevention tools have largely done their job. And session hijacking attacks, by their very nature, happen after authentication has already succeeded. How to prevent session hijacking beyond native tools. While no single control can eliminate session hijacking entirely, there are several strategies organizations should implement as part of a defense in-depth approach. Enable phishing-resistant MFA. Traditional MFA like push notifications or SMS codes can be bypassed by adversary-in-the-middle attacks. Phishing-resistant methods such as FIDO2 security keys or certificate-based authentication are significantly harder to intercept. Implement token protection and CAE. As discussed, binding tokens to trusted devices and enabling real-time access evaluation are critical steps. Microsoft explicitly states that organizations should use token protection as part of a broader strategy against token theft. Block unnecessary authentication flows. For example, Microsoft recommends disabling device code flow wherever possible, as threat actors like the Russian-linked group Storm 2372 have exploited this feature to hijack sessions using valid access tokens. Harden endpoints against token theft. Deploy Microsoft Defender for Endpoint and Intune to protect devices against malware-based token exfiltration. Organizations should also deploy controls to prevent users from accessing malicious or risky destinations on the Internet. Follow the principle of least privilege. Limit user permissions so that even if a session is hijacked, the attacker's ability to move laterally or access sensitive data is restricted. But here's the reality. Prevention will fail. It's not a matter of if, but when. A sophisticated attacker with a well-crafted phishing page and a legitimate-looking domain will eventually get through. That's why you need detection and response. Tools for detection and remediation. Defender for Identity and ITDR. This is where identity threat detection and response comes in. Traditional identity and access management stops at the login. It checks your credentials, applies policies, and decides whether you're allowed in, then it moves on. ITDR operates on a fundamentally different assumption. Credentials will eventually be stolen or misused. ITDR watches what happens after someone logs in. It asks, is this behavior still trustworthy right now? Let's look at two categories of solutions. Microsoft Defender for Identity. This is Microsoft's cloud-based security product that detects malicious actions in on-premise and hybrid Active Directory environments. It uses behavioral analytics to identify suspicious activities like unusual logins, privilege escalation, and lateral movement. However, Defender for Identity primarily focuses on on-premise Active Directory signals and may not provide full coverage for modern SaaS-based session hijacking attacks that occur entirely within cloud environments. Dedicated ITDR platforms, solutions purpose-built for identity threat detection and response provide capabilities that native tools often lack. They continuously monitor identity signals from platforms like Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace, flagging unusual behavior such as authentication anomalies, credential misuse, and session anomalies. Modern ITDR platforms use behavioral analytics and AI-driven event triage to identify sophisticated patterns like token theft and session hijacking, cutting through the noise and escalating only actionable incidents. When an ITDR platform detects a compromised session, it can trigger automated responses, immediately revoking all active tokens, forcing re-authentication, isolating the compromised identity, or suspending the affected account until an analyst can investigate. Some ITDR solutions also provide 24/7 security operations center support, where human analysts validate threats and guide organizations through response actions, ensuring rapid containment while keeping control in your hands. To summarize, session hijacking is a sophisticated attack technique that bypasses traditional MFA and conditional access controls by stealing valid authentication tokens. Attackers use tools like Evilginx and adversary in the middle phishing campaigns to capture session cookies in real time, gaining full access to cloud environments without ever triggering a password or MFA prompt. Microsoft Entra ID provides important prevention capabilities, token protection, continuous access evaluation, and device hardening, but these are proactive controls that assume you can stop the attack before it succeeds. What you also need is detection and response. Identity threat detection and response solutions continuously monitor for anomalous behavior after login, detecting compromised sessions through behavioral analytics and automated response actions. My recommendation: start by enabling every prevention control available in Entra ID, token protection, CAE, device enrollment, and phishing-resistant MFA. Then, evaluate an ITDR solution that provides real-time behavioral monitoring and automated remediation for the threats that inevitably slip through. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. In our next video, we'll cover credential theft, how attackers steal passwords, and what you can do about it. Thanks for watching.